Hello, everyone. Today is January 6th, 2022. I'm here with Micky Dartford. Micky is an actor. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Micky.
No problem.
Wow. So we were talking just before this that you went to two different schools before, for acting. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess I I did drama at university and college. I mean, that's how we know each other from when I did my year abroad at Ucsd. And I guess yeah, when I was at high school, I didn't really know much about like drama schools and going to like a vocational school. So I guess the equivalents in America, I mean, you have like Juilliard and um, Tisch and Yale. I think they're more sort of like, yeah, conservatoires where it's like full on practical training. But I I wasn't too clued up on the drama school scene when I left high school. So yeah, I went to college and studied like drama and theatre arts. So yeah, I did that. Um, and then it was after that, after a couple of years out, that's when I decided to go to an actual, to go to a drama school and audition, because you have to audition. You don't just get in with like grades or whatnot. You, depending on the school's requirements, you will do like a monologue that's contemporary, a monologue that's classical. So a lot of the time Shakespeare, and sometimes you have to do a song. And I remember like yeah, you have to do a song as well. I remember when I just was doing the auditioning like process, like I feel like I'm more confident singing having gone drama school. But when I was auditioning, like I didn't know what song to pick. Like I didn't know if I was good. I didn't know if you pick like a pop song or if you have to pick like a musical theatre song or something. So that was
What
fun.
what did you end up picking?
What did I end up picking? I can't remember. I did. Have you ever seen the British Office?
I've heard of it. I've heard it's very good.
Yeah. So like, I can't remember if it's the end of The Office or the end of Extras. It's one of Ricky Gervais's ones, but there's like a short song called "Tea for the Tillerman" by, I can't even remember who did it, but it's like a really short song, and it shows like a bit of range, and I kind of just wanted to get it over and done with as quick as possible, so I just chose that one. And there was another musical song I did as well, which someone told me about later on in the auditioning process, because you audition to like quite a few schools, like often. So I think it was about halfway through, someone said, "Oh, this is a good one. I think it would suit you." And I was like, oh, "Okay, yeah, that's probably a better one to do than some random song that's like at the end of this credit." So yeah, but I can't remember what that was now.
So what do you mean by it seemed to have good range?
So I'd say like the pitches of your voice, and like the, yeah, like if you can sing quite high. I'd say like I'm a tenor, so I'd say that my voice isn't too like bassy when I sing, if you know what I mean. So
Not too
it
low.
show- yeah, exactly. It shows I'm more comfortable probably singing high notes, and I find it quite hard singing like really low sort of notes. So yeah, I'd say it at the time I thought it did anyway. I mean, I might listen to it now and be like, maybe it doesn't, but like I just thought it was a song that was within my range, actually, to be
Okay.
more correct, rather than shows good. It was like good within my range.
But another individual led you on to a different song.
Yeah, I can't remember what I can't remember what the song was now. It was it was from a musical, because it was back in 2016 when I was doing the auditioning process, and I was very much more focused on, because you do singing at all the drama schools, right? That's something you just do within doing drama schools, because you even if you're doing a straight play that isn't a musical, sometimes you will have to, there might be singing in it or something. Um, but I just tried to get through that bit as quick as possible to just do the straight acting, because that's what I wanted to do.
Yes.
But yeah, I can't remember for the life of me what it was.
So was this new song in a like higher state? Was it a song that had very little or to no low notes for you to sing? Or what was the big difference between these songs that you remember?
I would say, and it's something that he told me and something that I learned whilst at drama school, was that like I think I was quite naive when I was listening to musicals or songs in general. I think you just like listen to the words, be like, oh, this sounds nice, and then that's it. But then it's like when you perform them, it's kind of like acting. You sort of like act through the song. And I think sometimes different songs give you lyrics which allow you to do that easier. If the lyrics are good, if the tune's good, you sort of like invest yourself in it more. Kind of sounds wanky, but it's like it's true, because rather than just standing there singing, then you're sort of like you are acting whilst doing it as well.
Okay.
And like, I
And
think there are some people who are absolutely incredible singers, and I can imagine that during these auditioning processes that maybe the acting, like, they weren't completely sure on, and then suddenly they do this song and they're like, oh my god, like, it's easier for them to see how much potential they have as an actor through singing.
absolutely. And people love musicals, live musicals, um, theater music, like
Yeah,
recorded musicals as well.
yeah,
That's gotten huge in the last 5 years, 5, 10 years. So there's
100%.
definitely a place for it.
Yeah, and that's a good point, exactly that. So, I was talking about like straight theatre acting, but you're right. Like in movies, you've got like, I mean, you've got like these kind
Mamma
of people.
Mia.
Yeah, exactly. You've got these people who are sort of like known for more straight acting, and then they're thrown into these musicals. And I imagine some of them have got like a musical background, and I imagine some of them haven't. So it's like you need to sort of be equipped to do everything, I think.
Absolutely. I thought The Showman was great by
Yeah, yeah.
Hugh Jackman. It's Jackman, right?
Hugh Jackman, yeah, Hugh Jackman, uh, guy from High School Musical,
Zac Efron.
Zac Efron, and then Zendaya's in it as well, right?
I don't think I know Zendaya
Zendaya,
off my head.
the girl who plays the new Mary Jane in Spider-Man. Well, I haven't seen the new
I,
Spider-Man, but I think it's Mary Jane. Or she's in June as well.
okay, I haven't
You
seen
recognise her,
June
I think
or
you
the new.
recognise her, but yeah, I'm sure she was in that. But yeah, no, you're
Okay,
right. You know, a lot of
it's becoming
movies.
big.
Yeah, La La Land.
La La Land, is that the one? Is that the Quentin Tarantino one with Brad Pitt and Leo?
No, that one is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. La La Land's the one with Emma Stone, I think it is, and Ryan Gosling.
Okay, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, yeah. To be fair, I haven't actually seen it, but I know it's like a musical,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
sort of like feel. And there's another one as well. There's another one of Andrew Garfield coming out. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for it, but yeah,
No,
like I wasn't sure if he had a musical theatre background as well, but it seems like there's like a lot of sort of singing and dancing and choreography, and yeah, it's kind of,
absolutely.
yeah, it's all exactly what you're saying. It seems to be very popular over the last few years.
Wow. And okay, and so that was introduced to you. Was this in your initial schooling or the secondary schooling?
There's the singing.
Yes.
I'd say, well, I never really had done it other than when I was at drama school, which was after I did college. So I mean, I'll talk about that, because that was I when I finished college. So I was with you guys 2013, wasn't it? And then I went
Yes.
back to UK, finished my degree in England doing drama. That was halfway through 2014, and then was just trying to get like a standard job just to get money, to get out of student overdraft and whatnot. Couldn't get a job. Just it was so difficult. I think like again, if because I think if the employers are aware it's like a temporary job for you, they think that you're probably overqualified. If do you know what I mean? Because they know that you're just probably going to work there for a bit and sack it off or whatnot. But
Yes. And they're
so yeah,
less willing to take you on.
exactly, yeah. So I didn't. get a job until around December that year. I was sort of like working in a bar flexibly, then got a full-time job as a travel agent, and then I quit that about 6 months in, about June 2015. And that's the point where I was like, right, I really want to get back into, doing my acting. I want to do this professionally. What do I do? Who do I speak to? How do I, you know, go about this? I joined
Yes.
some casting sites, and some of them could be good. Some of them just like they kind of offer you jobs for money to do things, but the actual content of what you're doing, it's never necessarily going to get you far. It's never going to. You rarely ever see like a TV casting on there, or a movie casting, or a good theatre casting. It's kind of like more commercial or whatnot, really,
Got
or
it.
online, like social media sort of commercial sort of things. Um, so
What do you mean by social media commercial things?
so like I don't know if you probably have been on Instagram or something like that, and like you might come
Yes.
across a commercial on there. So I think social media is different because with a commercial, it'll either be like global and it will be on like TV, like as like an advert, or it will be like an online commercial. Essentially, the difference is the platform you're watching it on and the money. So obviously, if you get like a big global commercial, um, then you can get big bucks for that, like big buyouts, depending where they go, depending where in the world they go. But these ones were a lot more like smaller scale, sort of like where, yeah, it was just sort of like they could be good like money jobs or whatever, but they're not going to necessarily get to where I wanted to go. So
Yes.
I joined some of these casting sites, and I was like picking people's brains who were in the industry and were doing quite well, and asking them, what they did and how they got about it. And I I mean, one of them had gone to drama school, and he really recommended it to me and said that, like, look, I just think it would be a good thing to do. They can do a lot for you. And another company like this, it's actually this theatre near me that I went to growing up in Colchester in Essex. It's called the Mercury, and they were doing some sort of what was it? It was like it wasn't like a competition, but it was like something you apply for. You do like a monologue with them, and it's like some career progression thing.
Okay.
And I did it. They really enjoyed my work and whatnot. And then they just said they asked if I'd gone to drama school, and I said like no, I'd just done sort of drama at college or whatnot. And they said that they thought it'd be like a really good idea because it can just sort of like could help further your career a lot more. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. So December, after sort of figuring this out between June and December 2015, December I was like, right, I'm just going to hand in a bunch of my applications and yeah, get the show on the road. So for luckily, some schools were a bit different with regards to you having to do more, but for the most part, yeah, it was a classical monologue, contemporary, and a song, but not all of them wanted a song. And yeah, I didn't know where there were like there's like a few really good schools that I knew were really good. I definitely handed my applications into, and there were some others that I just didn't know a lot about them, so I kind of just auditioned for like everywhere. Um, and then yeah, my audition started January 2016 and went all the way through till June 2016.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
because
a
like
long
you're
time.
yeah, it is because when you do a lot of them, especially, you could be doing like one a week, and then you get like a recall to the drama school as well. And then some drama schools do a third recall as well, so you get through to like the
Wow.
last round. So imagine that multiplied by about 10 schools, I think I applied to, or like 11. Um, and like luckily, I did quite well for my audition. So a lot of the time, I was having to sort of go back and do like another recall and whatnot. So yeah, it was like a long period of auditioning. and especially you got to go around the country a lot as well. So like, you know, I went.
Yes.
There's quite a few in London, luckily, which is pretty much where I'm based. But like, um, Wales, I had to go to. I checked out the school in Scotland. I um, I ended up going to Bristol Old Vic, which is like quite far west from me. It's about 3.5. To be fair to Americans, 3.5 hour drive. It's like nothing, but in England, it's like that's quite a bit of a trek. Um, it's like the other side of the country. So yeah, that's where I ended up going and absolutely loved it there. Yeah,
That's yes. It's a huge difference. I mean, been living in UK versus living in the US, like the size and the, one thing as an American that I don't love is, everything's so big here, especially if you don't
yeah,
live in an urban city, that you have to own a car.
yeah.
And that is a huge cost compared to, Europeans have such great public transportation systems
Mm.
that it's, pretty reasonable if you don't have a car. It might be tough, but you can live somehow, I
Yeah,
think.
you're definitely right. Like I have a car. I grew up in Essex, which is just a bit outside London. Not too
Okay.
far, but we're like just outside the zone, as it were, where the underground runs.
Okay.
There are some places in Essex, like as you go more south, that are within the zones where the underground stations begin. But where I grew up, it wasn't so you did need a car.
More
But
suburban.
yeah, exactly. So where I live at the moment, it's quite good because there's like a direct train to London, gets you there in like 30 minutes,
Nice.
and
Do you
it's
own a
nice.
car?
I do have a car, but like you're right, like where I actually probably wouldn't necessarily need one right now, no. But in America, yeah, you do. I think you do need one to get
Yes.
about. Like you said, it is very vast. Um, yeah,
Really
definitely.
heading back to what we were talking about with the schoolings, is there a reason you decided to go to your initial schooling instead of going to a drama school, right out of high school?
I would say that it was just purely because of being unaware of the drama schools, like that world. Like I just wasn't, my high school was like they kind of prided themselves on their performing arts, and we were good. The drama department was really good, and actually, when I auditioned to my um, drama schools, I actually went back to my high school teachers to run through my pieces with.
Wow,
Because yeah,
wow.
they were great. I really respect them. They're such good teachers, and they gave like great direction. And they were the kind of ones who got me into it as well as my brother as well. He was always into the performing arts. He kind of got me into it as well. But
Your brother's an actor as well?
no, he's not. He did. That was a sort of career path he wanted to go down, and I really think he could. And I'd love to be able to if my if when gonna sort of visualize my success. And I'll say when, but like
Yes, sir.
my I'd love to get my brother back into it because a bit like the uh oh what
Entourage?
yeah, exactly, or yeah, whatever, and like get there are those two brothers, um
In real life, two brothers?
yeah, the one of them was in Spider-Man. He's the Green Goblin.
Oh, James
That's it.
Franco
James
and
Franco and his brother. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So like something. I mean, I might be wrong with this, but I've I was under the impression James Franco got his younger brother involved, but I don't know if that's true or not. But either
he got
or,
his.
yeah, either or, like I'd like to get my brother back into it. I think
Yes.
that he went traveling after college, and like I think it's easy to fall in love with that world and being
Yes. The traveling world?
yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah. Um, like getting that wanderlust, and
Yes.
he come back, and
How
I
long
think
was his trip?
he went for like a couple of years. I think, yeah, it was awesome, and I'm very envious of that because I've been very like career focused, but I feel like I've missed out on a lot of these traveling experiences and whatnot. Don't get me wrong, I'm really grateful for the year abroad I spent in California. I made some amazing friends, absolutely loved it there, and then got to travel around America after. But I would like to have a year where I'm just, going around the world doing whatever. But I think graduating college is quite a tough thing anyway, where people don't know necessarily what it is they want to do.
Very tough.
And then I think then when you go traveling kind of near enough straight after that, I I always think it's a great idea to travel. So I'm not knocking anyone who travels; it's fantastic. But I do think it comes
The
as
cost.
it does come at a cost as well as a sacrifice. Because then I think when you come back from traveling, it can make you feel even more lost. Because I mean, let's face it, we all want to travel, we all want to see the world, we want to do amazing, fun things, but you need money to do it, don't you? And it's like it's it's difficult. I've always kind of envisioned that with my career, that's what's going to enable me to travel and give me the luxuries to do that. But you've got to put the groundwork in to get those luxuries. And I think that when you go traveling, it procrastinates putting that groundwork in. Um,
Absolutely. And,
so yeah,
for me, a huge transition in thinking, for me compared, now compared to right out of college was when I'm traveling, I want to get the, maximum that I can get out of this experience.
yeah,
And that, that, say you want to travel, I traveled a lot for work and it's a huge cost. And for several reasons, say you go out for 6 weeks to a foreign country and you're renting a home with two or three other people and your lease ends, well, your third week in the country. That's very tough situation. And you're putting a lot of burden on your roommates, which is a situation I was in. When you travel, I'm a huge proponent of routine.
yeah,
And I think, without routine, as even while here, I'm in Mexico currently, I'm based in San Diego, but there are some things that, some pieces of my routine, which I have to bring in here because, it's tough to go out and effectively integrate into new experiences with new groups if you don't have like a foundation of routine.
yeah,
And it's nearly impossible to do that while traveling, especially while traveling like in a state of wanderlust versus like, I read a book, The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. Have you heard of Tim Ferriss?
I have, yeah, yeah. And I've heard of this book as well. I need to read this. Someone told me about this. Yeah,
It's good. It's got a few really good pieces. And one of the biggest things is his form of traveling is going to a foreign country and just staying there for 4 to 24, even longer months. And, getting rid of that wanderlust, being immersed in a new culture, and with that, we're able to set up routine. And I think that's the type of travel, I want to do, or even here, like I'm just in a single city. I'm not like going from one city to the next city to the next city to the next
yeah,
city because it's really intense. Like we're recording a podcast and I'm out, in a foreign country, but I'm able to do this because I've been in this city for, like 5, 6 days now. I'm in the same Airbnb I was 5 or 6 days ago.
yeah,
I'm in like a routine where the mornings I do like my little, reading and then some, journaling and then, beach. And so there's like a routine there. And like you said, wanderlust, there's a huge cost because just moving from point A to point B has cost.
yeah,
Then you're also sacrificing like, and this is where I'm at now because we're, versus 5 years ago where I was like, I'll sacrifice money or I'll sacrifice time in the name to get more money.
yeah,
Now I'm like, and this is tough because, earlier we were, I think before the recording, we were alluding to the difficulties of parenting because it's such a high cost, and even being comfortable purchasing a comfortable home for, any dependents you want, whether that be a spouse or one kid or multiple kids or even a dog. Like, you can't just get a dog and
Yeah,
just hope it works out. It's like, it might work out, but you also might, put that dog in a very tough situation and very
100%,
tough life situation.
100%.
And it's, we really, it's, that routine is important, because I think, like you said, traveling, you sacrifice things. So, now that I'm traveling, even like I don't wanderlust anymore. I have to, get into some sort of routine. And
Yeah,
then hopefully from there, maintain, even stronger roots. Because, like, I think we also mentioned this before the podcast recording started, there is some selflessness to being selfish.
100%,
If
100%. It's like, yeah, I was, yeah, getting older, being aware of your own mortality, and sort of like realizing that actually, it's not selfish to be selfish, essentially, on
as long
yourself.
as you're not hurting someone.
Absolutely, it's like, you want to experience as much as you can, and you want to do that in your own way. I mean, it sounds what sounds great with yourself is, it sounds like you've got a good routine going for yourself, and that means that that's something that you can bring anywhere. And I think it's important that if you are happy with yourself and that routine you have, then you can be anywhere and still be like happy and have that routine. You're not depending on that place to give you that sense of fulfillment. You're creating that yourself. And it's great that you can be somewhere abroad and feel like, well, if I'm not actually maintaining this routine I have, then I feel a bit lost, if you know what I mean.
That
I
makes
think,
perfect sense. And I didn't think of it like that, but it makes perfect sense.
yeah, I think it's a good thing to have. I'm actually only recently feel like I've started actually getting my own routine back, because I've just moved into this place. It was a lot of time spent furnishing it, and getting things done, like getting used to the area, getting like fitting in like exercise, fitting in the work, navigating work and whatnot. Well,
Social.
it's not new work. I mean, it's work I had, but just sort of like my journey to work's different to where it was, where I used to live, and just things like that. Social, luckily, that's fine because it's near the town I grew up in, so
Nice.
so that's fine, and it's great. I feel like I finally have that foundation that I've been needing, I think. Like, I've just got a base where I can keep my things, and it's somewhere where people can come to stay, and it's somewhere where it's close to London, and it's also somewhere where, I've just moved into this place. I I bought this place, so I've got a mortgage on it, and it's
Congratulations.
thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, thank
That's
you.
huge.
Um, and I've just moved in, but optimistically, I think that I'm not in the headspace where I think, right, this is where I've got to be for the rest of my life now. It's like, no, this is somewhere where I could rent it out in the future, or if when I meet someone, we get a house, and I'd keep this to rent out. If you know what I mean, it's not. I think sometimes some people get wrapped up in the idea of like being anchored to somewhere where they buy, but you shouldn't. You shouldn't think like that. I don't think you should.
No, because
Um,
it's too burdensome on ourselves.
yeah, 100%. Because, like I said to you before the chat, when I was in California, it was literally the best year of my life. I absolutely loved it, and yeah, I really want to, try and get out there with work, and hopefully, well, yeah, it's going to happen. Um, but yeah, like back to, so, that was my brother's thing. I think he would have really enjoyed. I think he was great. He definitely had the potential to do it. I think that, yeah, just that whole finishing college, being a bit lost after college, then going traveling, coming back. I think it can, yeah. So, but he's very happy now. He's been with his what now wife for years since school, and they've got a child now, and yeah,
Wow.
they're
He
loving it.
was
They're happy.
with his wife while he was traveling too. Was he traveling with his wife?
So they were still together while he was at college. Once they finished high school, then I think she went traveling to Australia. She never went to college. She went traveling to Australia, and she was there for like 2, 3 years, I think. And then I think my brother and her had a bit of a break for about 2 years or whatever. And then they both met up in Australia and then travelled around Asia together, come back, and then yeah, they sort of back here, and they got married August 2019,
Oh
and
wow.
they've got a baby. So I'm an uncle now. So
Congratulations.
it's fun. She's
Nephew or niece? Niece.
niece Maya, she's called,
Awesome.
and
What? Maya?
Maya. Yeah, yeah,
Beautiful
yeah,
name.
yeah. Thank you. And it's funny because you know when your mates have kids, and it's like you're kind of like if they're close friends or anything, they're cute, right? They're cute kids. You're like, oh, congratulations, he's cute, but I don't feel anything for them. Do you know what I mean? They're just like
Yes.
they're
I
I
want them to be safe and secure.
yeah,
But, as far as that overwhelming love, it's hard. I don't, it's
yeah,
not natural.
yeah. It's I wish them the best with my friends' kids, but then when my brother had a kid, it was the first time I actually felt like this is kind of like this is a bit of me. She's my niece. She's actually, I just felt that immediately when I saw her, and every time I see her, I love it. And I think only to a certain extent that I got an insight into that world of having a child. But I think if you're the father of that kid, I completely now understand that world of like, right now, this is my life. Like, I will do everything to look after my child, and like, this is what's important to me now. And I think in that state of mind, you do just forget about sort of some things that you want to do, maybe because all your focus is on them. And I think in that mindset, they don't care, and that's great. And I love that. And I think that from an outside perspective, sometimes it can seem scary because then you have got such a commitment. Um, but then I don't think it has to be, because like what you said about having your own routine, I think as you just adapt your routine, that's all it is. You adapt it. You've got a child now. You're like, right, I still need to have my own fulfillment. That's very important for the child, for yourself, for your partner. Um, and I just think you adapt that routine, and that's what you've got to do. You can't. I guess what I was saying about buying this house, the fear is that you're anchored, and this is my forever place. You have a kid, you're thinking, right, my life's out the window. I can't do anything anymore. Like, now I've got a child, it's all about them. But I do think there's a way you can manage it. And I think also in that state of mind, you'll get there, you'll make it work because you like love that, you know, child so much.
Absolutely.
But they're great, they're they're doing awesome, and they're happy, and they've got this like really nice bungalow that they're sort of like, it's a project home, so they're sort of like
Nice.
doing it up like really nice.
Bungalow in the UK?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What does that look like?
It's like in the country, so it's like yeah, so it's cool. It's like it's really old. I mean, it needs like a lot of work. Like, it's very like old, like, damp, like proper project house. But
Yes.
um they love it because, like, I guess having the kid as well, there's no stairs, so it's just like lots of land. Do you know what I mean?
That's huge. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, they're loving it. But I think
So, so,
he go on.
no, no, continue.
We are actually in the sort of talks of writing a feature film, actually, me and him,
Nice.
with his experience working at these residential homes. because we feel like that's a world that isn't actually explored a lot, and there's like a
Yes.
lot of potential for like a good story there. So I think that he's a very creative person, and I want to initiate that creative spark in him again. So we're going to get writing this year. That's a big life goal of mine, because I turn 30 in July, and I just want to be.
Wow.
I want to be like in the best shape I've ever been in.
Hell yes.
I want to be. I want to have written a spec for a TV show or a full length feature. And just personal progression for like my career, sort of some goals that I want to achieve as well within that. But yeah, sort of very much like visualizing that and confident it will happen. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting him involved, in that stuff.
Have you written before?
I have to, because I used to do like loads of stand-up comedy. That's what I wanted to be, before
Yes.
doing acting. And that was very much, you're not relying on anyone. You've got to rely like on yourself, and you write your material and you perform it, and essentially you write and direct it in a way and perform it. You're doing a lot,
That's a
So,
lot. And it's
and
really easy to fail.
yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah. And I've seen people fail. Yeah. I felt like I got, to be fair, like not,
Absolutely.
not to like sue my own trumpet or whatever, but like for the majority of them, I enjoy doing my stand-up comedy, and they went well. But you get like a couple of gigs where maybe like it's difficult not to sound like you're blaming it on something else, if you know what I mean. But the truth is that you can deliver the same material in a similar way somewhere, and it will absolutely kill it. But then you could be somewhere else, and like the architecture sounds weird, but the way the rooms like laid out could just be it's not like intimate enough, and there's like obstacles, and the promoter maybe hasn't promoted the night that well, so you're not getting many people in. And sometimes the people in are just friends of one of the acts, and the majority of the audience are just mates of one of the dudes who are just there to support them, and they don't even enjoy comedy that much themselves. And so
Yes.
there's like loads of variables that can sort of like count towards a bad night. Or you could be shit as well. That's a thing. You could just be shit.
It takes a lot of work.
Yeah,
And sometimes you put in that work and you're still bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So to answer your question of writing, yes, I wrote a lot for my own comedy. I wrote a lot. So actually, the first time I did script writing was in San Diego.
Nice.
We did playwriting with, she was great. What was her name? I think her name was Kim. What was that? There was two acting teachers called Kim, and no, Elizabeth, I think she was called. But she sort of, it was playwriting 101, and she just gave us like the tools and how to write a play, different like different characters, because a lot of the time you can watch something and you can always associate these stock characters to these people in the things you watch, almost like a formula. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard of commedia dell'arte.
No, I've never.
It's like an old Italian sort of art form, which basically you have these stock characters, and I can't remember them all, but you've got like the confident. I think this is more specifically with comedy, but you can apply it to sort of like serious dramas as well. But it's like you've got the like overcompensating captain who sort of acts like he's the tough guy, but actually, is a coward. You've got the kind of
Ricky Gervais, Steve Carell in The Office.
yes, absolutely that. Yeah, that's very El Capitano. Yeah. Then you've got like your zany, I think that was the name of it, and that's sort of like the more like lower class, sort of like the servant, the kind of like the one who's like bullied around. So there's a really like big um, English TV show, an old one called Blackadder. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. But
No.
there's like a character in that called Baldrick, and he's very much like your Zany. And like I said,
People love to love the zany.
I'd say, who is a Zany and American one I can think of? Like the lovable loser, essentially.
Lovable
Like,
loser.
so, uh,
Have you ever seen Kim Possible?
yeah,
Do you know Ron Stoppable?
Unstoppable. Yeah, I haven't seen it in ages, but yeah.
He
I feel
seems
like,
like a lovable, loser.
yeah,
His last name is Stoppable, so
yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, exactly. It's like the guy who, they kind of like, you're like, oh, they say like the stupid thing, and um, but yeah, she was sort of introducing us to these. Commedia dell'arte was something I learned somewhere else. That was at college in at Kent at uni, but she, yeah, was just showing us like a bunch of different things about like how writing your first script and how you go about it and whatever. So that was kind of the first time I did it, and then after that, I've got kind of like some things that I want to work on. I've been working on, but there's still a lot of practice to be done. I feel like for me, I I think I pride myself on, I can think of an idea, I can think of characters, I can get that going, I can think of a storyline. But I think it's now at the point where the actual technicalities of like the way you write them or whatnot. But there's programs you can get for that. There's something called Final Draft, and there's different options that you click on, and it will format it automatically for you. So if you want to do like a play or a feature film or a TV script, the formats will all look different.
and is this tool widely used within the industry?
Yeah, massively. Like massive directors use Final Draft. I think Final Draft in particular is probably the biggest. Um,
Okay.
and
Eh, Um, sorry, continue.
no, I mean, you get some script writers who have grown up using their tool, and that's just what they like to use. I can't remember.
But all
Final
these
Draft.
tools essentially do the same thing, which is present a template for writing a script of any sort, and then you can use that template and kind of ease the process of making the script.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think Final Draft, as far as I'm aware, because you have to pay for Final Draft, so I think it's more of like a premium.
Got
But
it.
I think Final Draft does that particularly well. Um, is it SEDEX or something like that? There's one called, I'll quickly Google it. SEDEX Writing. I think that's writing. Maybe it's SEDEX. Codex? No, I can't remember the.
It doesn't. It's all right.
Yeah, I can't. But there's, there's a few, and some of them are free, which is great. But I don't know if they're. You might manually have to do these formats on those.
Final Draft is probably the best tool if you want
I
like
think.
the
I
best
think.
experience.
Yeah, I think it makes it easier for you. And I know that big professionals will use Final Draft, like big directors or writers that you would know of. Um, but yeah, so looking forward to doing that more this year. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, what was we were saying? What was it that? Because I was, oh yeah, that's it. I was saying about my brother doing acting, and then my high school teachers um, going back to see them. So
Have you seen them recently, or maybe within the last 3 or 4 years?
I did, yes, I went back to one of the schools they teach at to help with
Before COVID?
before COVID. Yeah, I was helping with. I was watching some of the students' audition pieces for ones who wanted to audition for drama school straight after high school, and
Okay.
I was just giving feedback, just honest feedback, trying to give them
Help him out,
Yeah, exactly. You know,
progress in his skill.
absolutely. I think there's a lot of things I'd like to have been told during
Yes.
that process that I
It's
wasn't.
hard. It's hard to hear those things though in the moment. They have to be presented in a very compassionate way. Because
Definitely.
if they're not, then I'm guilty of this. It's very difficult to take like something that's like,
Yeah,
you're bad, you need to improve. This is how you're going to improve. It's like you're
yeah,
right. You're probably right, but the way you presented that is very not kind. And like we're human beings. We're not
yeah,
robots. Like we could wish, like I'm an engineer by trade, and I could wish that everything was just like, you know like a software code or like a mathematical equation. But
yeah,
really, once you start working with other people, it's a lot of you know just presenting things, as you're saying, like trying to help people out, trying to get it, help yourself out, and
yeah,
doing it in a way which everyone feels comfortable with everyone there, so that there are no, you know, that there's no lack of trust between everyone. Everyone
yeah, of
trusts
course.
that you're gonna like you're gonna say things and act in a way that won't upset me and won't hurt me. And that trust can be broken pretty easily.
Mm.
And we have to be, or I feel we have to be aware of like how we present these things, which is, I think, what you're speaking to as well.
Yeah, I think as well at the beginning, like say you could always say at the beginning, like, look, I'm here to give feedback. Take it, take it or leave it. But like, this is just what I guess as well with the arts, it's all subjective as well. But I think there are some things that are like you want to try and give feedback on the like objective truths. I think as much as possible. For example,
Yes.
there was a girl who she was great and she did this piece and she wasn't old enough to do the piece. Quite frankly, it was about this sort of like not middle age, but like a woman in her late 20s, early 30s, and this girl was clearly a teenager, and she was just talking about and like she hasn't lived through these things herself yet, so she
Yes.
can't, she just can't she can't bring it
Relate.
the performance. She can't play. Yeah, yeah. It's hard to believe it. One because of how young she looked, and B because if you haven't experienced it, like how can you play on it? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, there are rules to that exception, but
Th-
for the most part,
can I stop you right there? I think people, have this illusion of actors kind of being not who they are on camera, when in reality, these actors have to become their characters.
yeah,
I don't think it was too much of a, coincidence that shortly after The Dark Knight 2 was released, Heath Ledger died of, self-inflicted reasons.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think it's a coincidence that after playing the evil person for 10, 15 years, Kevin Spacey comes out and, as doing some
yeah, yeah, yeah.
pretty upsetting things. And, even like, so people have this,
When you
like,
become the villain in a way, you could become like you could like I guess yeah, like they could get
and,
themselves in a like zone where they think, oh, I can like do this and get away because I don't know, like because they're the villain, they think they can get away with it. Maybe,
or
yeah, no, it's an interesting, like, yeah,
they can't even control it to some degree.
yeah,
It's like it's part of, you're doing everything to become this person on screen. That seeps into your real life. It's hard. Like it's the
yeah,
same with athletes too. It's like, you and I make this argument. It's like privacy is now nearly over. And no matter what our job is, we have to stay in accordance with, moral things, what our society deems moral,
yeah,
because now more than ever, because, there are cameras everywhere. Everything that's put on the internet is nearly permanent unless something crazy happens with all the servers in the world. And it's, the end of privacy is here. But going back to, acting and all that, people have this illusion that people on movies, TV shows, a good, actually, counter argument to this is Bill Cosby, who on television was actually, a very lovely, charismatic person, and then, had some pretty horrendous personal life aspects to, what
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
doing. But I think more often than not, people see like a social media profile or a actor on television and they think, oh, that's fake. He's not that. He's, blah, blah, blah. It's like tough. If you're going to put that much work and that much effort into promoting these things, there is going to be some, drawback on you. It's like, you're here doing this thing, even if it's like barely for a moment and you're capturing like this one instant moment that barely, didn't really exist. And, overall event was something completely different.
Mm.
I still feel like even if you're in that for a moment, and if it's a minor part of your life, it still influences you. And for
Yeah.
actors, it's not minor. It's a huge deal. I can only imagine, but you can probably speak to it more. It's like, as you just said, with this young girl who's, was, probably a teenager and attempted to play the role of an, a 20 plus year old, 25 plus year old woman.
Yeah.
She needs to be there. She needs to do that. I think that's why it's much more common to see, actors. Do you know Hannah Montana?
Miley Cyrus, like.
Yeah, no, I mean the show
Oh,
itself.
yeah, yeah, right, yeah, yeah.
There was she was a teenager then, and there was a boy on that show who was like her best friend. He's that character. Do you remember? Did you see that? Did you ever watch that show?
Why is he the one who was like 30 when he was playing the brother?
Exactly. He had the bowl cut. He was
Yeah,
29 during that, during the shooting of that. And that makes so much more sense because, he's a young looking guy. So, I didn't know. I mean,
yeah,
even then, like, I honestly thought that guy could have been like, now looking back on it, when I see it, 18, 17, I'm like, wow, that guy was much older.
yeah,
But
yeah,
at that time, it's like, okay, this guy's experienced this. He knows what this is about. He can play this role. So it's much easier for older people to play younger people because they've been there, done that.
for sure. Completely agree. It's and she I think it's true. I think you can do the opposite. You can be older, sort of playing younger, but I think it's difficult younger playing older because also the first thing I see is you, what you look like, the aesthetics, and when I'm introduced into like the kind of character you're playing, I I immediately don't buy it. Do you know what I mean? Because there's the visual
Purposefully?
aspect of it. Sorry.
Do you purposefully not buy it? Or is this like kind of just inherent, like your mind is like, I don't buy that you're
I
this?
think like everyone does it to a certain extent. Like initially, I mean initially, because then obviously they could perform, and then suddenly the way they act, you're like, oh, okay, like, this is awesome. Like I've completely forgotten about that microsecond initial thought I've had. But I do think inherently we all do that. We see first, and we see and hear, but like what you see right away, that gives you an impression and an opinion. Because I remember she then did this other piece, and it was so funny and it was so great. I think it was about this girl like missing the bus or something, but like I could tell that she loved this other piece more. But I was just saying to her, like, I just think that the other piece you did is a very well known piece. Again, at the I can't remember what it was, what she did precisely, but at the time I remember thinking like I've seen this monologue before. It's quite overdone. Like when you're auditioning with this, you
Want to
want
be
to do
unique.
something that's new and unique and fresh. And then she did this other one. I was like, you like this is so much better. This is so much more you. And yeah, no, I think she. I don't know if she took it on board or whatever, but I was just I think that's more of like they're more examples where you can give like objective truths rather than subjective, where like you are like you are playing a part that is too old for you, if you know what I mean. Like it was too old for her. She wasn't that age,
Yes.
or
It's like saying,
even near that age. It was like she was talking about like, I think this character had children and stuff, and it's like, you know, she just um but yeah, but I think with regards to having then gone to drama school, you know, after college, that the way my life has like panned out with that, it's not a thing where I don't look back at going to college, to university, and thinking, like, I regret that. Like, I have absolutely no regrets because I absolutely loved university. And again, it sounds wanky, but I think university was somewhere whereas like I grew as like a person, and I feel like I had some amazing experiences. Like, got to do my year abroad in America. That's where I got to do all my stand-up comedy there because we had a comedy club that I co-run, and like it was a great opportunity to do that there. You had the free time as well. You got to like party all the time. Like it
all the
was
time.
so good. Like there was just no like commitments. It was sick.
Hell yeah.
Um,
And
and
people, there's a lot of, trash talk about fraternity parties, and there is a lot of terrible things that go on in some of
yeah,
those parties. But, there is a social aspect to being in a fraternity that
100%.
is very rewarding. Like
Yeah,
being in a group of guys, you can be one of them. Like I love being an individual. I think you love being an individual,
yeah,
but I couldn't be an individual. I couldn't grow as an individual if I wasn't immersed in these communities.
yeah,
And the fraternity, I understand, there are some things in the parties, that are not good and really need to be reformed.
yeah,
But at the same time, there's a lot of growth that occurs for these men if they're, applying this uh, in a, just in a way that, they can be look back on and, be at least proud of and say, okay, I did this. You
yeah,
can tell people with like no shame, I did this in the fraternity.
yeah,
And um, so, I know people like to not, really hound on it, but, like you said, your your undergraduate, is that what they call it, undergraduate
undergraduate.
experience,
Yeah, 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 undergraduate. Yeah,
was all about experiences. And, I wrote an article about a year ago detailing that, like how undergraduate experience isn't about gaining skills or gaining knowledge. Actually, if you want to gain skills and gain knowledge, it's usually like not for acting, because acting is so um, like social, such a interactive thing, but you really need to be there. But for a lot of things, like you can learn like at least the foundation of even acting or something. You can like coding, you can learn the foundation of
yeah,
anything online.
100%.
And it's not to say that going to college is any worse or any better, but some people, the affordability, the 4-year commitment,
Yeah,
the money, it's just like, we were in a place where, we came from decent families. We were able to, be ready for this as it came.
mm,
Some 18-year-olds aren't ready for that. And not only that, aren't going to end up taking the careers, at least this is what we see in America, that there's a huge underemployment problem. And people are coming out, we have the most educated, especially Westerners too. I think Western Europe is also
mm,
immersed in this. We have the most educated generation of all time by far, yet the opportunities have shrunk in the last 50 to 60 years.
mm,
And a lot of people like you and myself, we come out of these colleges with amazing experiences, great relationships, and just a lot of good growth in the last 4, 5, 6 years. But we are not ready. We don't have the skills we need to make money in a way, in accordance with society.
of course, of course. I remember chatting to a Bodie about this as well, and like he was this was a few years ago. Like he was just saying because he come to he was doing a trip around Europe, and we met in London, and he was just saying how like that a lot of like the job, one of the jobs he was doing or had done, he was just like, he didn't really need to have gone to college to do it. He could have just done it. Do you know what I mean? And it is, I think America especially, like, it's very like drilled in. You go to college, that's something you do. In England, it's less so. Like a lot of my mates didn't go to university. They did like quite practical jobs, and that's how they did it. You get your first job, you work your way up. Don't get me
Like
wrong.
I know in England, there's a lot of old housing, and
Mm.
electricians and plumbers make great money.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of my friends are electricians, plumbers, carpenters. Um, yeah, they
And you don't need school for that.
exactly. You just do it. It's hands on. Um, but yeah, it's not. It's still common. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like America, it really they hone in. You go to college. That's something you do.
And
But you are right. It's like I think this is something I realised is with regards to doing like the vocational training and doing something practical. I think that's where I realised that when I was at drama school, I suddenly like it clicked. I understood it. I was like, right, this is why a lot of the time actors who go to drama school are employed more because of the training they get and the thoroughness of the training they get as well. Like it just doesn't.
the experience from the teachers, I would guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And the alumni who come to visit, who
Wow.
um, Oscar winners who come and like who went to the school. Oscar, BAFTA, Golden Globe winners, like big actors who come to visit and talk, and who inspire you. Casting directors who come to the schools, voice classes, movement, just like so many, and they're long days. They're like 8 till 6. So you're getting your money's worth as well. And I think that's what made me realize that actually like I get it. Like drama school. If you want to do acting, if that's what you want to do, like I would always recommend going to a drama school because you'll get more out of it going to one. Drama at uni I loved, but I'd say it was a bit more vague. It was like it wasn't just acting. It was like you could do like writing, directing, stage management, sound design. It was all sort of like
General.
yeah, a bit more like general. Um, but it's going on what you said. If you can go online and learn a course, say it's about coding or engineering, and you're actually getting that practical knowledge for work reasons, that is so much more efficient. But then there is something in growing as a person and
Yes.
getting those social skills as well, which I probably think are probably getting worse throughout
Yes.
society as the years go on, with everything being online, with the pandemic, with
Absolutely.
I mean, I bet so many people have got is it agoraphobia, where you're scared of going outside? I'm
There
sure,
are
like,
some people that wear these, crazy masks right when they step out. And it's like, if you're wearing a mask, I can't even speak. Like, I can speak to you. I will speak to you if I
yeah,
have to,
yeah,
but you're so guarded and I literally can't see your face that it's
yeah,
very
sure,
difficult to, like,
yeah,
you
and it's
approach
like
me, fine. Go,
for sure,
continue.
and no, you're right. It's like I get why people are wearing a mask because of the protection, and especially like in
Absolutely.
very infectious ways. Like I get it, but you're so right. You can't like with these masks now. You can't see people. You can't tell if they're smiling. You can't tell if they're pissed. You can't like. You're right. So I
You don't
think
even know who they are.
yeah, it's true. So yeah, I think like social skills are probably going to be have gotten worse, especially like in these like crucial times of their lives for these young kids who are missing out on these social elements whilst they're at school, and and again at uni, growing up, it's difficult. But I guess
It's very
uni
difficult.
for me was that it was like for me to like grow in and socialize and like
Absolutely.
get
That's what
more
it's about,
confidence, get more, yeah, 100%.
more than gaining knowledge. It's not about
Yes,
really gaining knowledge.
exactly that. So my postgraduate drama school, that was the knowledge because you didn't have time to go out and party, and you didn't want to. You know, my mates in my class, um, they were all great, and you want to be great with them. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to like go out the night before, like party and just get
Be
absolutely
the
fucked.
worst one there.
Yeah, and then in the morning you're hanging, you do, you haven't done your assignment for the next day, and exactly, and you show yourself. You don't want to do that. You want to be good. You want to, keep on your toes. Um, so there's that element of it. There's the element of you don't actually have the time. You don't have the free time to do it like you did at university. It's very time consuming with regards to how long you're there for the day and the amount of work they give you. They really like gave you a lot of
Pound you
work.
with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's it was very full on in a good way, and you look back on it and you realize that some moments you're like, for God's sake, this is so like, what is the point? Like, what's the point of this? This is so full on. You've given us so much already. Like, this is just too much.
You're tired.
It's not realistic. I'll never have this much on in the real world to have to juggle all these things. But then I think what it was doing was it built this foundation that you'll never forget. Like, it was like proper grounded in you, the amount you did and whatnot. And that's where for me it was so worth doing, and it was worth the tuition fees, and it was yeah, it was really worth it. However, I guess I'm more grateful of the order that I did it, because
Really?
yeah, because if I did, there are perks of starting in the industry younger, don't get me wrong. If like I would have, say you're fresh from high school and you're like, 21 or something, and you've just finished drama school, you land like a great series regular role and your career just starts from there, great. But then I think that you won't necessarily have had the life experience as had you have gone to college and done more. Do you know what I mean? Like the just the social elements of it. I
I
mean,
know what you mean.
I'm not saying that like it's important. Some people are sober, some people don't drink, whatever. Like, some people don't party. That's not their thing. So be it. But for me personally, I enjoyed my having that social growth, and then bringing that to drama school and being more of an. It made me more of an individual going in there, rather than being very fresh, very young. Say you're finishing at 18 high school, go straight to drama school. I think you can be very, what's the words, like influenced easily. So because you're still growing at that time, you're still growing from 18 into a person. Whereas I come in there already grown. It's like, I know who I am. I'm content with who I am. I'm here to learn these skills, but I'm I'm an individual. I'm not here to grow into be an individual, if you know what I mean.
Yes. It's you're here to grow, to like have a higher sense of well-being and to be happier and to connect with people and to also be able to like live with yourself too. Like,
Hmm.
not like, I mean, people who don't have this mindset of, growth matters, progression matters, learning from my mistakes matters. They might have the belief that that's not so important, but I feel it leads to a lack, a much lower standard of reward in your life, a much lower sense of, I am happy with how I went about today, how I spoke today, how I acted today. Where, it's just easier to maintain that, and that, reaps in, it, goes back into our careers. So it's like if we're able to do that progression, say some people sacrifice progression and well-being because, it's too selfish. Like, for example, I like to meditate, I like to do yoga. Sitting down in the morning and doing like a 30-minute meditation, 20-minute meditation, that's an important piece of time. Like, I could be like, what am I doing here? Like, just sitting here doing nothing, where like I could be working, I could be communicating, I could be, out with, doing something. But it's like,
Yeah.
we need that selfishness, we need that growth. And then from that growth, we'll be able to handle these aspects of life so much easier, and just like, okay, this is like my value towards this. So
Yeah.
if I apply my value to this, uh, you know, whatever this challenge that's arising in my life, I'm gonna, I already know, like, I have a system in place to handle challenges. So it's like,
Sure.
it shouldn't, that's part of the routine. Again, it's like, there's times where something happens in life and it's a big deal, and it's going to take like a day, 2 days, a week of your attention. And like, we didn't plan for that, whether that be like car accident, breakup, just, getting terribly, like breaking a bone or tearing, getting terribly injured or sick. It's like, these things have a huge impact on us, and like, they're gonna happen. Like, we're gonna get old and sick, or we're gonna,
Yeah.
something's gonna happen. We're
Yeah.
gonna possibly lose our loved ones. And that growth is very valuable in those moments in the future. Because if we haven't thought about how we're going to react to those moments, if we haven't like put in a system, like, it might work out, but it might not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
do you have
No.
something?
No. I agree. I think. Yeah, relating that to sort of like having that system in place for yourself. Because also when you think about it, what you finish high school at 18, and then you go to college and you finish around like say 21, 22. That's why I feel like it's difficult, because with postgrads, I think sometimes you're under the impression I can't be bothered to do a postgrad because I've already done this amount of money, spent this amount of time, and you feel like doing a postgrad, you're thinking, oh, that's more time. But then actually, by the time you get to postgraduate level, you actually understand yourself more, and you're more committed to doing what you want to do because you know you want to do that. Because through the ages of 18 to,
We
like,
were partying.
exactly.
We were literally partying.
And you're learning to like live, like you said, like by yourself. Like even things like you're not living at home anymore. You're having to fend for yourself. You're having to like cook for yourself. Like you're you're figuring all that out whilst doing your studies. And
No
then
one's there to tell you you're slacking off right now. You have
yeah,
to tell
exactly,
yourself that.
exactly. So it's hard because I feel like I guess I'd always postgrad comes with some difficulties, sometimes like financial difficulties. Completely, yeah, get all that. I just always, if anyone's ever put off by it, I'd always just say, give the advice: don't be put off by it, because you're doing it because you know that that's what you want to do now. Whereas when you're an undergraduate, I don't think you always do know, do you? You're kind of
No.
just toying with it. You're doing something that, oh, I quite like this, and then you do it, and then either you find a niche within that you love, or sometimes you don't love any of it, and then you figure, and then you realize that because of that, you then know exactly what it is you want to do, and that's when you go for that ambition instead.
Absolutely.
Because yeah, it's not a lot of, you don't have a lot of time to
No.
figure out things as an undergrad. I don't think.
No, and you're not in that, like you said, we're not in that thought process between 18 to 22.
Yeah,
I was thinking about socializing with friends. I was thinking about partying. I was thinking about, you know, uh, being athletically fit, and I was occasionally doing my studies as well.
yeah, 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 yeah. And that,
You
and
know?
like that was the like priority order as well. Like,
Yes,
yeah,
literally. versus what you're like, I'm 28 right now, and I'm seriously considering within the next 2 years going back into a graduate school program. And, I'm not sure if I think we spoke about this on this while we were still recording. That's the advantage of having gone through, not traveling right after school.
Yeah.
That's the advantage of, sticking to where you're going, having a goal in mind, and, working towards that goal. Of course, we're going to have other things. We should have fun. We can't just,
Yeah.
just work towards work. It has to be social and, health, of course, and all these things. But, now, like, you and I, like, this would be a 2-year program, and, we're not young, 30,
Yeah.
20, we're not young, but I know plenty of people that aren't starting their, careers until like 32, and you're a homeowner, I'm a homeowner. We both have a career in place, moving forward. We both have goals. We both, have put in a lot of work to get to where we're going to go. And we get to reap a few rewards from this. Like, we have choices now. We can go X, A, B, where we were first coming out of college, where we had no experience. We didn't really have the skills and tools at our disposal, or the skills and like values at our disposal to handle this. Now, 5, 6, 7 years out, we are like in position because we put in that work to do well. And, the 20s is an exciting time for sure. Like, so many things changed in my 20s, and I would guess yours as well.
Yeah.
But the 30s, I feel like for you and me, is where we can apply this, vast growth that we've, had, and, put it out into the world. And, hopefully the world, that's up to us to make sure that the world, isn't, wants, values what we're giving it, because that's the most important thing. If other people don't value what we're producing, what we're creating, then it's worthless. It's not worthless. It's not worthless. I've created a lot of, things that, aren't very great and no one really values. But in the end of the day, it's in pursuit of something that I hope people will value. And in order for me to understand how people value it, I have to take in their input. I have to hear where they're saying, okay, X instead of Y, do this instead of that. I don't think you're doing this very well. It's hard to listen to, especially like we said earlier, if it's not presented in a compassionate way. But, I understand not being able to ingest uncompassionate, requests or uncompassionate feelings. So I can't knock anyone for that, but it's going to be way better for us. And I'm still, in the future, someone will present something that is in a, kind of not compassionate way, in my opinion. And, I might not be able to integrate that within my thought processes as well as if they went and said, hey, just did it with, warmness and not expectations. Like, if he doesn't take my advice, whatever, I think this is right for him, but I'm still gonna, be his friend, still gonna be whatever, have a relationship with this person. It might be work, it might not be friend, it might be, like two people, you're not gonna start screaming at each other because you have that's the worst case scenario is, you don't want people being upset with each other, so that, the whole system, the whole like human, interaction system works as optimally as possible. And without, compassion, truly, I think the compassion makes things a lot easier.
100%. Yeah, definitely. You you just communicate better with it, and it's like you said, it's more of an efficient way of communicating that.
Yes, it is.
Did you
You're
do?
going to get your point across.
Yeah. Did you do a grad program after UCSD?
No, I
Oh,
just,
cool. So that. Yeah, yeah, decent.
that's why,
You were
I
thinking of
don't
doing it
necessarily,
maybe, yeah.
yes, yes. I just wanted to make money right away. I wasn't in a position where I felt like I could, uh, comfortably live and be in school. I was like 22. I wanted to be off, the government's dollar, off my parents' dollar. I just wanted to be creating my own wealth and be able to, freedom. It's huge freedom. Like the ability to say, I have a home. It's my castle. This is my domain. You're welcome here, but this is mine. This isn't my father's. This isn't, my mother's. This isn't the
Yeah,
government's. And there's nothing wrong with living with our parents or on the government's dollar if we needed it.
yeah,
But, because a lot of people like you and I, we came from, you know, uh, good backgrounds, frankly. Like a lot of
yeah,
people,
yeah,
like I think we are speaking about this before the podcast record. I don't know if we got into children and the responsibility of dependence,
yeah.
but because I'm guessing your parents, you believe that your parents, raised you responsibly and with love.
Yeah, like, I mean, yeah, especially, it was a not. I mean, yeah, not like as a down or anything, but for me, it was so my mum and my dad, they broke up when they were like younger, and then it was
Okay.
actually my stepdad who raised me from around like when I was young. I was like 7 years old when he sort of like took you know took care of us.
Wow.
It was great. It
That's
was
a huge deal.
100%, and like a test. And then 2016, actually, when I was auditioning, he passed away randomly. It was
Wow.
yeah,
It was
he got
unexpected.
unexpected. He got a brain hemorrhage, and he
What is that? When did he fall or is that?
no, but so it's like it can happen from like contact on the head, but it can just happen like your brain just gets a bleed, just like having a stroke essentially.
Okay.
And yeah, just the brain bleed killed him. So that was a mad
Rough.
part of my life with you know my dad essentially, the man who sort of grew me up into a man. Just suddenly
Is your
died.
brother a stepbrother or
No,
your full brother?
he's a full brother. Yeah, yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, it was tough. It was tough for us, and it was obviously tough just because of like losing him. It was tough on my mum. It was tough for
I
me
bet.
thinking, right, I'm about to go to grad school on the other side of the country. Um,
And your mom's alone now.
my mum's alone. Luckily, my brother was back at the time, and he was able to see her a bit as well. But I just felt I wasn't sure if what I was doing was the right decision. Um, I look back and I know it was now, but at the time, I just wasn't sure. So it was shit, and it was but he did do. I mean, all all thanks to him really. He did do very well. He was a managing director of like an import and export company, so like shipping, and yeah, like he sort of raised me and my brother well. Always looked after my
Nice.
mum. So yeah, no, definitely had um, he like all testament to him for my upbringing. Really,
That's that's very lucky because I know a lot. I mean, I don't know personally, but I've heard, heard research that step parent in the home can get, has more likely chance of abuse on children than.
I can imagine. To be fair, and it's I think it's sad because as I've got older, I feel like I miss him more because I think I realised that taking on someone else's kids and like raising them as your own, that's a big deal. That's a proper like
It's a big deal.
a man to to do that.
It does. It's not natural and human. It's not natural for us to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no, exactly. Like it's and I realised that more, sort of more and more, and I feel like I'm grateful for it more and more as each day passes as well. So, but yeah, no, there was, he did really well, and like, don't get me wrong, because the thing is that I guess there are some families you can do this and that, and I guess you can't compare, but in the grand schemes of things, yeah, he did well. You know, I still sort of needed like my loans for tuition and stuff like that. But like, you know,
They
they
kept you safe.
yeah, yeah, kept me saying, you know, and like he helped finance um my like cost of living while I was at college and stuff like that.
That's so
You know, so yeah,
huge.
he helped out loads. Yeah, but yeah, no,
So,
like you
okay.
say, sometimes, you know, that if you haven't got that support network, it's difficult and it's shit. There's
Yes.
again, I don't know about America as well, but in England, I know there are some pretty good like scholarship schemes. And well, America's massive for scholarships, isn't it? I think like
It is.
there,
It
you know,
is.
there are, it's good that there are like avenues that help like people, because it's
There.
like it's a real tragedy if someone like has these special talents and whatnot, and they're restricted from like exploring these because of financial reasons, because of like family reasons. It's a real shit fact of life.
It is. And my argument to this is that you and I, we grew up in a safe household. We were assisted by the people that were taking care of us even through our college experience. So we were able to afford and be in a place where we can, ingest these experiences, this this progression of goals and values, this social aspect, this education. And because we already feel safe. Like it's tough to move to a new place, and we all have that where it's like 1 or 2 months where you're just like, oh my god, this is really tough.
Mm,
But when you come from a safe place, or a place you feel secure, and you have something there of high value like family and a home, it's easier to go into this new place, I think, and be successful, because at the end you can say, I have my family, I have, they're helping me out right now. I'm not in this alone. They want me to succeed. Whereas for some people, like you said, and the reason I bring this up is because like we do have scholarship programs in the United States, but what
mm,
we're seeing is that for a lot of people who don't have these initial, like we mentioned this, I think, before the recording, having a child is much easier than having a mortgage and obtaining a mortgage. It's much
yeah,
easier to produce a child than it is to obtain a mortgage. And possibly for that reason, a lot of children grow up in, you know, they're not in a safe environment. They're moving
yeah,
around. They don't know who's taking care of them sometimes. And they don't have a solid individual to, mentor them, to guard them, someone that, can hold them. And when they don't have this, a lot of times they look towards, public, public opinion or policy or the government, which is good because, it's there for a reason. But,
yeah,
what we're seeing, I think, in this in our generation of overeducated, underemployed individuals is that these people actually can't afford to take those 4 years off in their youth.
yeah,
And, they're in such a tough position that it's possible they won't be able to integrate these immersive experiences, these immersive like goals. Like, because I can imagine if I needed a job to work through college, the chance of me being in a fraternity would be so much slimmer.
yeah. Of
And
course, of course. Your time, yeah, your time commitments completely change, and thus your college experience of like gaining those you know those sort of like so going to those like social events that were like
yes,
great, and all these experiences that were great, you sort of miss, yeah, you could easily miss out on all those that help you, you know, grow and help your enjoyment of your time.
well, yes,
You're right. When you've got to balance a lot of that, it's it is very
And that's why, I find it interesting, that dichotomy between, just informing students that, you can go get your undergraduate education and hopefully we can make it affordable for you. But
yeah.
there's a chance that the job you want isn't available with the education you have, and you need to do a lot more. And so, comes back to that
Are you
aspect
saying,
of,
sorry? Are you saying you would like to have been aware of that? Like,
I think a lot of people would like to be aware of that. I
yeah,
mean, it's tough.
no, definitely. I completely agree there. Like, I think that they entice you with college because of these like social reasons and because college looks really fun and like the college life. But in reality, it's like it's going back to what you said
Giving up
before.
4 years of your life.
You can learn this stuff like online that actually practically will probably be a lot more beneficial for you than spending thousands of dollars on like um on
In
tuition,
education.
college
Yeah.
fees. Yeah, it's it's mad. I think that I mean I'm guessing that like there's having being in debt and having these loans benefits the government. I'm guessing. Do you know what I mean? And these interest rates and stuff. I don't know. Like I don't know if
I
there's
I
gone.
don't know about that. I think I actually don't know if that's true because a lot of people are defaulting on these loans, not able to pay it back. So it's like actually the government might be losing money in this
Mm,
process because they're still, in I think it's $1.5 billion of debt through education loans.
right. Okay.
So they're not making money. It's
Yeah.
what I
Fair.
think is going on is, this is economics, but really the universities aren't producing value, yet they're still getting paid. So they're not producing value, but they're still getting paid because for the end individual, it doesn't cost them anything to go. So it's really, it's tough because I think actually the universities are the ones that are profiting off of all of this, not the government. The government's actually losing money. A lot of people who are immersed in this experience and this this process of schooling aren't coming out with the skills that they need for money. And some people like you and me, we can last for 6 or 7 months without money and be okay. Some people, that's a huge deal. And if you have loans, big loans that you took out an $1,800,000 loan and you're now 22 and have a tough time getting a job, that's not okay. We're putting people in very tough situations because of choices they made at 18 when they were barely educated on the
Yeah.
subject matter of personal finance.
100%. Yeah.
And so the government loses money, the individual loses, a lot of time, a lot of they might not be paying it even if they get it, but they're going to lose time. And if they don't get a job they want at the end, or like, our friend Bodie, who, said, this job I didn't even need an education for.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, that was a huge deal. Like I just wasted 4 years of my
Yeah.
youth, which is,
100%. And I think like you can reflect on that when you graduate. But I tell you what,
yes.
I'd be reflecting on that probably about 3 months in the world's current state during the pandemic. Imagine when we were at college, just being locked in your dorms, not being able to do anything, and then all you can sort of like really think about is, I guess, you've got more time to think about your studies, and then you sort of really, don't get me wrong, there were great things that I probably actually more so at when I did my year abroad at UCSD. It was a lot more practical actually, but still, I'd say that alone, I don't think would have been enough for me to stay there for the whole 4 year. I think I would have dropped out if I was, in this current climate where you're not combining it with the college life. I don't think I would have stuck it out because I just would have thought this isn't actually worth it. It's probably more beneficial for me to go out there and get this and just learn on the job, straight away.
Yes. And, even if, you're having a tough time getting a job, there are things that people can do now on the internet. Like, so for me personally, like I want jobs in the future. And one thing I'm doing is writing articles. Those articles require a lot of reading, a lot of research. And it's like, if you have, say you want this job to be an X position, well, if you just research it, and then output some, content, like for me, I think writing is a good way to output, that I understand this, I'm thinking about this.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm an engineer, but I think for acting, it could work out too. Say you want to go to the Juilliard of the UK and you don't really have that much acting experience. If you're able to like prove that over a year you studied a lot and you understand and gained a solid grasp of concepts because you hammered it into your head repeatedly by yourself, that is a lot of verification that you care. That if you come into that community, if you come into Juilliard, you're going to take that ambition to create and apply it to this school, and the school is going to feel that you may benefit them in turn, because that's what the school wants. They want the best alumni and say, this gives me the most prestige because I had, say Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or Bill Gates. A lot of these guys don't go to school, but never went to school. But, it's like, it's, there are ways, now that we can gain that knowledge beforehand, there are ways to be able to prove that, one, we are willing to do it. Two, we understand, we've taken the time by ourselves to understand, so we do have some foundation. We're not going to come in there just like, like I did in undergrad, never having coded before. Like even just, doing a small app in high school on my own time would have been beneficial. And I think,
yeah.
And I think one of the big things that we have to be aware of is that personal finance matters. Like we can't just, think that like people will figure it out, because they need well-being. They need to understand how money works so that they can defend themselves against life. Life is very tough, very complicated. And if we're poor, it's very difficult to do anything and to feel comfortable. So like, it just needs to be taught, like ingrained in these, anyone's head, that economics matters. It's a big deal. And if you get past a certain amount of that poverty line, it's not easy. Like you and I said, we're from good background, so it's much easier for us. But, economics matter, and people need to be able to fend for themselves in order to progress, I think.
I wish if I could have seen into the future when we were at college, I would have invested 100%. I just would love to have been more like acutely aware of the investing world and whatnot. And man, I see these it's actually great for like the younger generation at the moment, because it's a shit time at the moment with this pandemic and everything. It's really tough. But like, I see these things online with these young kids, and they're being so smart with like the money that, however it is that they're initially getting money, the things that they're investing in, whether it's, these cryptos or just the stocks in general, like you can get some like great returns. And I don't know about you, but have you ever sort of like looked at some of these big companies and looked at what their shares were worth back in 2012, 2013, when we were at college?
Yes.
And you're like, man, if I would like Tesla, if we would have just like jumped on the Tesla bandwagon then, like you could just be
3 years ago, we would be rich. Yeah, you could stop. And, that involves being acutely aware and that takes a lot because we could also lose a lot of money too. Tesla was pretty obvious because the product is so amazing and everyone loves it. So
Yeah,
like for me, I didn't really invest in Tesla, and something that I'm gonna go back on is like it was pretty obvious, in 2018 that Tesla's a big deal. Like,
EVs in general are just, like it's just, yeah, it's
and he had this sexiest one, the best
yeah,
looking one, the
yeah,
one that people actually wanted to drive versus a Prius or like a Chevy Volt where it's like,
yeah.
damn, that's not nice. Like, I'm not going to impress anyone with that. People love to impress people with their cars. So,
So
and
it's always been a
it's
thing.
it's
Yeah,
a it's a beautiful car too. Even the experience of driving one. So I shouldn't say that, but it is as much as just like NFTs that are coming out. It is a form of, you know, I don't believe in this trust verification. That I own this, so I'm able to afford expensive things other than this.
yeah. I think like with NFTs, what's actually interesting about it is that when you look into these things that are big in the future, and then you think actually like they seem stupid, and then they actually start like making sense in a way
Yes,
with regard to like. Don't get me wrong, like there are some
touch
stupid.
screens,
Yeah, well, yeah, there's just like some stupid NFTs out there, right? Where you're like, God, this is really stupid.
the
That this,
gorillas.
yeah, and whatnot, and like the crypto keys or whatever. But it's like when you actually think about art in general, like it's so much more easier to authenticate an artwork via a code that is literally like inscribed into this NFT. Like you can't, and it's like impossible to replicate. It's I don't like know. It's hard to like articulate how they do it specifically, but I just know that from some things I've read, the authenticity of these NFTs are so much easier to do that with than actual like art from
Physical.
back in the day because a lot of these artworks, and it's been a massive problem in the art industry, hasn't it, with plagiarism and replicate like replicas of the originals because it is hard to actually. Some people are such experts at doing these replicas that they think it's an original.
Yes.
But it's actually you can't do that with NFTs. They are literally just coded. It's just one code. You can't.
And it's on everyone's, everyone has the ledger.
Yeah,
It's not like this one company has, like, everyone has this ledger. Everyone can prove that this guy owns this
it's
piece of
real.
data.
Exactly. So like that just makes sense, doesn't it? It's like it's okay. Like the actual. Um, it just yeah, it makes sense to me that these are so much easier to have these collectibles. Um,
One one
the
thing I'm wondering about.
well, just like the the meta world as well at the moment. Like I'm just thinking that, and it's a believable world, that I can just see in a few years' time in the future.
It can be the new movies. People think it's like, oh, I have to live here, but you could just watch a movie in it.
Well, you can be like we.
You could be Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah. But like I'm just trying to articulate what I mean. But it's like we buy a place, you buy a house. It's what you see and what you feel, and that's what we associate with like being real. And but then if you're in the meta world, you can kind of like replicate that same thing, and there's going to be a new world in which there's a new economy probably in this world. I saw this thing where people are buying real estate in the meta world
Yes.
because they're saying that
Decentraland.
it's sorry.
Decentraland.
Yeah, and it's like they're saying it's like buying a flat in the middle of Manhattan for like $80 now. Like you can buy these properties in the meta world, and then they'll just be worth fortunes because this is somewhere where people are gonna like semi live in. This can be like this meta world is probably going to be an escape for a lot of people who can absolutely be killing it in a bit like in I'm sure you've experienced this. Have you ever met someone who's so social on social media and you meet them in person, and there's just nothing about them. They're just like, yeah,
Nothing.
no social
That might
skills.
be me, dude.
No. But like in the meta world, like you can actually be someone completely different. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yes.
gonna be mad, and it's gonna be like it's gonna be really good for a lot of people, and it's gonna be really bad for a lot of people. A lot of people are gonna have a glimpse into this new world that they absolutely love, go into the real world, and it's gonna cause a lot of depression. 100%.
It's it's so crazy, so new. Like, every time we integrate some technology within our lives, there's some trial and error there. And like this is a big one. It's gonna be, I'm imagining the beginning is gonna be pretty raw, like how drugs were in the early 19th century or
Yeah,
20th century when we were, giving people cocaine and, just these crazy things as medicine.
yeah,
So I, I see a place for it in the future, but there's going to be, I can see that, some very serious money being made soon though. Like within the next 3 years, I can see some companies like creating a product that's really useful and people love it and everyone knows about this product.
yeah,
But, for it to like become like a huge part of our life, kind of like, I don't know, what's a good example of something that, I said EVs right now. It's kind of like that, where it's like you
yeah.
see more people with EVs, you see people with homes getting solar and charging stations. It's like soon you're going to see condominium complexes. I mean, there are some in San Diego where it's like the whole condominium complex is layered with solar panels and there's charging stations all throughout
Yeah,
there. So it's like, it's slow and it's gradual and there's going to be some issues, but I mean, I feel like when people just put this thing out, like people like to disregard it and say, what's the big deal? I feel like when so many people see something about this, it's very tough to just say, I don't see it. I can't imagine it's going to be good.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want to deal with it. It's like, no, there's probably going to be something here. And even if there isn't, at least you will see how a technology progresses over the time of years. It's been now, what, 12 years, 13 years since Bitcoin came out.
mm,
So, and I heard about Bitcoin in 2015 for the, earlier than that. And like, I thought it was foolish, but if I
yeah,
invest in it, I would be making a lot of money. So, or I would have a lot of money now. And
yeah.
so it's just like at least being aware of the fact that, there's that iPhones, there's, the internet, there's other aspects of technology that are developed and it takes time to integrate them.
I
And
think,
in that,
yeah,
what?
I completely agree with yourself. Yeah, like I think what you're saying is that essentially, like, I think now, probably especially since I think two of the biggest things is probably like EVs and cryptocurrencies at the moment. I think that
Huge.
realizing now that nothing is too stupid, like to essentially like invest in.
No.
And
Even SpaceX. Like, how is SpaceX going to help me out?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it's yeah, like worthy investing, and also like to not disregard it and think it's not going to work. I think like massively so. Like
Having an open heart and not being closed off is huge. Like, it goes beyond investing for sure.
yeah,
It goes through like being able to connect with people. But if you want to be a good investor, just maybe not be too reactionary, but being open is very big.
for sure. Yeah, because yeah, in the last few years, there's just like a crazy amount of progress and new things that are just like proper delving into that. Like this is the future right now. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it's not going to be easy for us to integrate this. It's not going to be simple. So we really have to understand that, like we go back to, have a value system in place, have a thought process in place so that, when
Yeah,
these new investment opportunities come, these new opportunities to, make decent amounts of money in an
yeah,
intelligent and, you know, not, guarded way. I'm not, I don't like, pump and dump trading. I like to, have assets that are actually valuable.
absolutely. Yeah, same. It's like with the meme coins and stuff or whatever. It's like
Yes.
there's that's where for me it just got with Doge. I mean, Doge was the sort of like obviously the pioneer of it all. And it was just like I had a bunch of shares and did trading with it again, like you said, did my research, things I believed in. And then suddenly this meme coin just absolutely shoots up. And then
Wow.
you've got all of the like the sister coins of it, like, um, uh, Kishu and what's the other one? Shiba and all these other ones that have just like, and I've got mates who just made like thousands of pounds of it, right? And it's like that was like their first like investment, and it was like I couldn't help but feel jealous. I don't like feeling jealous, but I couldn't help
Absolutely.
I spent time doing the research and just having these shares and things that are actually getting. I'm happy with the profits or whatever, but like you know,
They got really rich really fast.
yeah, with just some like bullshit thing. But I guess on
It's
the you've got to be smart when you make that kind of money because you can if that's your initiation into investing, then you can easily lose that then straight away. Like,
very easily.
um, but yeah, it's yeah, there's definitely
But the knowledge on investing, I have a friend, he also didn't invest, he's probably 28, 29, and he's starting to get into investing, which is a bit late. I got into investing in like 23 years old. Even that's late. Our kids should be aware of investing immediately, like at the age of like 11, understand like if you're going to make money in your life, and where you put that money is the biggest, it's going to determine, where you go in this world.
so
So
important.
spend money wisely. What were you saying?
No, it's so important. I was late in 23. I was probably 25, 26 when, and it was only because again, this friend of mine, good friend of mine, his dad is a financial advisor. So he was aware from a very, young age that like basically even when he was given pocket money, he'd put like 10% into a bond, 10% into everything he had. He had a formula of where he put his money. And it's so good. Um, so good for saving, so good for having like that safety net, and so good for having money work for you rather than you having to work for all your money. Like it's I wish I was yeah, I wish I was introduced to it from a younger age. This is where I get a bit more cynical about um like the education and who dictates what we're educated on. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
I do
absolutely.
think that I do think that there are some things that are purposely missed out because
Wow, I didn't think about it like that.
yeah, I like I, I I do believe that because a lot of times they get money of people not being financially like intelligent, getting
Yes.
credit card debts, all that which they have to pay off with interest, um, and not being yeah
I think though that, we can move forward with the idea that wealth isn't an end sum game. You getting rich doesn't make me poorer,
yeah
because as we have seen with Bitcoins, actually wealth is being created. Maybe, depending on how assets fluctuate, we will get poorer as a result of it. But I'm of the belief that, even in this last 100 years, people say, the world's got worse. I disagree. I actually think being poor is easier than ever today. and in the last 20 years than it has at any point in our lifetime. Being
Yeah.
poor previously was a death sentence.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, we're going to help you up, you know, and it's like,
yeah.
there are ways to get out. And one of the best, you know, like what happened in China with the level of economic growth in the, you know, last 30, 40 years is a, you know, for all of humanity, it is good. It is good that China is a richer country than being a poor, impoverished country. You know, whatever issues political there may be, you know, as long as, you know, I hope, you know, we can stay out of, you know, armed conflicts that, you know, I think armed conflicts lead to depressions and recessions.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that if we can in wealth and, you know, empower people, there's so much progress to be made, and once this progress is made, it's going to make being poor a lot cheaper. Or like, it's, you know, like the iPhone, it's like everyone has a phone now. That was an incredible device made by the, you know, richest company in the world at one point. And they might be still the richest company, but that, you know, do you know that the literacy rate in Africa shot up to like 80+% because people now text on their phones?
Yeah. That's crazy when you think about that.
It's crazy. And that by itself, the literacy rate, 80%, it's like, if we can develop these things, it makes being poor easier. And that is really what we need to go for, is making life as easy as possible for the most impoverished people, so
100%.
that
Yeah.
they're okay with this life, because things go wrong when people are not okay with the life they're living. And it's like great, you know, grand and possibly horrible things come as a result of, you know, in my opinion, grand and horrible things come as a result of, you know, people not seeing a way out and saying, if I don't do something very reactionary, very loud, possibly very violent,
Yeah.
I won't be seen, I won't be heard, I
Yeah.
won't be able to have a valuable life.
Yeah.
And that is what we need to get away from. We
Do you,
need people to be empowered.
for sure. Do you know Charles Hoskinson?
No, who is that?
He's the CEO of Cardano.
Is
Token.
it coin? Okay, no, I don't
Yeah.
know.
He has a great. His whole project is like fantastic, and it's. I know crypto in general is about decentralization and whatnot, but like because he used to be an ex CEO of Ethereum, and I believe that he left because he just didn't like where it was going or their vision or whatnot. I mean, don't quote me on that, but I'm sure that's why. And like his Cardano is such a backed project now. I think it's the third most popular coin. I think it's like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, and everything what you were just saying is what he wants to help these like poverty-stricken countries. Like he's got a massive focus on Africa at the moment, and basically he's saying that like trying to get rid of these like government regulated like financial funding or whatnot, like because you can have these countries that actually can you know what you were saying earlier about things that serve like a purpose and like things that people need. What was it you said? You said that like with regards to engineering, so value, that was it. So like things with value, right? They have the value to produce, but unfortunately, the thing is with these countries is that they don't have access to like a bank that can give them a loan to help grow what like to grow their value. They don't have
Absolutely.
the access that these like Westerners have. And by having this like this currency, this cryptocurrency, he wants to sort of like create his own economy where people can help each other out. You don't need to rely on a bank. Like someone could almost like proposing. Yeah.
Crowdfunding?
Sorry.
crowdfunding,
Essentially, yeah, like proposing it in a forum,
or
and then
I
people.
think it's called quantum funding.
Oh, possibly, yeah, yeah. But essentially, like it's that, so you don't need to rely on banks anymore in the government, which is great, and it's good that
Yes.
he's focusing on these countries purposefully so that they can actually thrive. But it's about time they thrived as well. Like it's it's
It's for our benefit
yeah,
too, is what I think people, sometimes miss the point. It's like, oh, they're getting wealthier, then I must be getting poorer. It's like,
it's not the
no, it's
no, of course not. Yeah, 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 definitely, yeah.
sometimes it is true. Sometimes people profit off of, like a lot of, oil plants that release pollution in more impoverished neighborhoods. Like there are some things that happen and we have to be aware of that and protect our environment.
Well,
You know,
I guess there is a I can't think of the word, but you say you've got a country that their cost of living is lower because of their economy, and that someone else's, like, from another country and their cost of living is higher. They charge someone from another country for, like, for whatever it is they need, and then in the country they're in, they sell it for and make a profit on. I guess until
wow.
I guess what that's the truth, isn't it? I guess like that's why people get people from other countries to do services for them for cheaper than they could get it in their own country because the cost of living is more, right? So I guess until, like, there will never be that kind of like economic equality or fairness until, like, essentially the cost of living for everyone is the same. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. This podcast is edited and posted on the internet by a virtual assistant team based in Mumbai, India.
Really? Yeah, yeah. What?
And
What?
I rent out their services every month and subscribe to them. And the amount of money I pay them is substantially lower than anything that's affordable in the United States for a legal, reason. And those people will gladly take my money.
Yeah, no,
And
of course, because of the
it's still a high value in India because the cost of living is so much lower. And that's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, it's tough. There's still going to be localized economies because hardware and physical things and physical services need to be, handled. It's not completely integrated. But people, yeah, I think it's something that progressive countries kind of don't realize, or like not progressive, but wealthy countries kind of don't realize is that a lot of work can be outsourced now. And I don't need to spend 15, $17 an hour when I can spend, maybe 11.
absolutely, and exactly what I mean. What you've just this company you just mentioned, you're proving their value right now, right? And this is
Yes,
where hopefully we see this happening. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
This is.
Absolutely.
I'll have to send you the link for the Charles Hoskinson podcast.
Please do.
Yeah, it's great because, like, he kind of just explains a lot of stuff about crypto in general, and the crypto world, and like the benefits and whatnot, and how Bitcoin essentially, like, actually Bitcoin is, for example, gold, right? Gold
Yes,
is valuable because we put value on it. There's a limited supply of it. There's only a certain amount of gold in the world. It's shiny, it's appealing, it can be made for jewels or whatever, but we put the value on gold. It wasn't just gold wasn't there and then there was a value already on it. We did that, and it's essentially the same as
yes,
Bitcoin. It's just something that we've
it is.
put value on. There's a limited supply. I don't know if it's like a million or a couple million. There's not a huge circulating supply of it, but it doesn't actually do anything. It is just
Yes.
the top now. I think what Charles Hoskin he explores that and says that if they actually were a bit more clever with the introduction of it, they could have, like, done some sort of more amazing things with that, like the kind of
Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Bitcoin.
Okay. Yeah,
Uh,
it's just a coin, not like Ethereum or Cardano, which have
exactly.
services
Yeah.
attached. And That's why I don't believe, Bitcoin is, I'm not invested in Bitcoin. I'm invested in Ethereum because
Yeah,
the value is pretty obvious. And the value is obvious. The CEO is very, trustable.
yeah,
And I've heard that there's actually money behind Ethereum, whereas most coins, there's not actually a fund there
yeah,
that you're investing in.
for
So
sure.
we don't, it's a wild, wild west out there. It's the true wild, wild west because it involves the entire world and everyone knows about it. I'm here in Mexico. There's ads for Bitcoin here. I
Really?
have
Yeah.
yeah, there are. I'm sure they're in Africa too. Might be way more difficult to implement there because the infrastructure is very bad, but it's happening.
Yeah, it's just crazy how known about it, it all is now. Um,
Yes.
there's definitely like a skeptical older generation, I still feel like, but you know, they, I think
That might
it's,
be at their
sorry,
loss. That
exactly.
might be at the,
It's silly to dismiss it. It is silly to. I think there's a lot of like probably like frustrated teenagers who are sort of trying to tell their parents
I
that
wish I got rich off it.
yeah, oh yeah, 100%. But no, I mean like frustrated teenagers in the sense where like their parents, they might be really trying to have a sit down talk with them, be like, look, we could be like, you guys could be like financially free as a family. We could actually have some like financial freedom here. It's not even like they probably the risk factors probably wouldn't even need to be too outrageous either. Lay out some sort of like financial plan of where to put some money, but I can just imagine a lot of the older generation like, no, this is stupid. It will, it
I
will.
want to party with my friends.
Sorry.
I want to party with my friends.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, um, it's we'll
It's
see. Maybe some of hopefully there's a little bit of a dip at the moment, but hopefully something start thriving in the next couple of years.
hopefully, are you invested?
Yeah, I'm invested. Yeah, not like too like super heavy, but
Okay.
in like fairly heavy, but like in things I believe in. Nothing stupid. I'm not like fair enough. Have a fund that you can afford to lose on you know these quick rides, for example, these meme tokens or something. But don't put like you know put like you said things like Ethereum. In my belief, things like Cardano. If you've got some Bitcoin, yeah, fair enough. Um, there's one that's actually during one token I'm invested in called Phantom.
Okay.
That's that's doing quite well. It's of the same sort of family as like of token and sushi.
Okay.
Sushi. Um, they seem to be doing well. But yeah,
Hopefully, it all works out. So, Mickey, do you have any last words for our audience?
no, really. I'm just like again. I think I touched on it earlier that like I think don't be worried about like because we were talking about postgraduate study and undergraduate study to begin with, and then we delved into the crypto world. But like,
Yes, we did.
yeah, I think just reiterating that don't like. I mean, you said yourself you may well consider going back into postgraduate study and whatnot, and I just always, for me personally, having done it, I just always recommend it because I believe that by considering it, you already know that it is something that you want to do, and you've had time to think about that, and you've had the experiences before that help dictate that decision. So I would just always think, don't get caught up in the rat race of I'm getting older. I shouldn't do that. It's too much of a time sacrifice. I think it's very much more important to like complete yourself as a whole and you don't want to get even older and regret not having done it. And time goes so fucking quick now. Anyway, it's like what, 2 years, 1 year, even 3 years. Like we'll just go like that. We've been in this pandemic since it'll be 2 years, won't it? In 2 months. So, and how quick's that gone? Like scary. So, yeah, just it's always worth like investing in your future. Like always, I think.
My guest today has been Micky Dartford. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Micky.
All right, it's my pleasure. Cheers.
Cheers.